and welcome to episode 5 of theVOX Fireside Chats. Today with a very special episode, introducing our new country manager for Kenya, Monsieur Damien Gueroult. Welcome.
Hi, Hugh. Yes.
So without further ado, as always, I'd like to start off by digging into the early context.
Okay.
So take us back, Damien. What do we need to understand about young Damien in France, growing up? What were the key influences on you which helped shape the man that you are today?
Okay, maybe I can start by where I was born and the kind of, upbringing setup. So I grew up in a small town, like 6,000 people, 2 hours south of Paris. So not the big city, not Paris, and also not the cool countryside, that tourists visit. So really a nice place, but really not much special. But this kind of small town where you know your neighbors. As a kid, you walk to school, and your parents feel safe about that. So very simple town. But my family, from both sides, and for as many generations as you can count, is actually from Normandy. So really in the north. And that's actually maybe something we have in common. Because Normandy was invaded by the Vikings, and then the Normandy people invaded UK, and ultimately became kings there. So perhaps we have a common bloodline between the two of us. And if you look at grandparents' generation, farming, so really having cows, producing butter, doing markets, etc. Then at my parents' side, my mom was a nurse, and my dad was an employee in an agro-industry business and did well, ultimately led a small SME there. But yeah, so pretty simple family, again, farming. So I guess the values, we've always had as a family, values of simplicity, hard work, because if you don't work your field, there's nothing on the table. Honesty, and maybe worth saying, I'm not sure what it says about me, but that's a fact. My two brothers are 2 military officers in the French army. I'm the only one who is not in the army, but maybe it says something about the kind of education and family background I got.
Right. So on the topic of education, how was early school life for you? What were your interests? Were you the class clown, or were you the hard worker type?
In the middle. So no, I was actually good at school. Never the best, because I was not working hard enough for this, but always among the top. But I did enjoy having fun as well. And again, back to this small town. It's like primary, secondary school in the same town. You walk to school. Very nice and happy childhood, I would say. And then from college years, you have to go to the next big town, which would be 100,000 people. Still relatively small, right? So you take the bus, and then it's only after college then I went to boarding school. I was admitted to an elite public school where, you work from Monday to Saturday afternoon, just studying. And at the end of that, you can pass exams to go to engineering or business schools, and that's what I did, and went to business school.
And just growing up as well, which person or character would you say had a biggest influence on you growing up? Would it be in the family, parents, brothers, teachers?
I think family, again, the farming side. I spent a lot of time over there, like literally all my childhood vacations. I would be there, like between 6 years old to 16 years old.
Right.
So I think it really, it was a great influence. And then a couple of teachers, So there's that one teacher which literally I was his last year, and then he retired, and it was really, really the old school teachers. I don't know about Kenya, but you're these guys with a cane, and if you don't answer well, like they would literally beat you. That is forbidden now in France, but I got a taste of that style of teaching. But I have good memories of him. Maybe I was good enough that I did not get hit with the cane too much, but he was also a great teacher. Yeah.
Okay, and then going forward as well, which sort of subjects did you show an early interest in at that age, going through the college years, maybe towards university?
Always fond of history. I'd say to this day, I continue to read a lot of history books and anthropology books and stuff like that. So yeah, history always. And then later on, I was not bad in math, but it wasn't necessarily what I loved. So more like economics, and hence why I ultimately did a business school rather than engineering school. So yeah, history, social science, economics.
Okay, and what's your favorite period of history?
Damn. I'm French. I have to say French Revolution is quite interesting, right? I mean, what kind of people just wake up and behead his king? So that's an interesting part of French history.
Okay, great answer. And then also at that stage in life, what were your childhood dreams? Did you have any specific aspirations? Was it maybe the farming? Did you ever think you'd go into farming, the military side, or?
Okay, so military, no. I guess
why not the military? Yeah, very quick.
I don't know. I liked play with my brothers, like we are in World War II. But as far as I can remember, I never, thought of myself as having a military career.
Sure.
I'm sure when I was 6, 7 years old, maybe, I told my parents I want to be fireman, but I've not had like a consistent childhood dream. I did consider farming when I was 22 or something. My uncle passed, and he was literally the last of the family to carry, that farming kind of legacy. And so at some point it was like, do you just put aside all your business school plans, etc., and take over the farm? I did not, and I think it was the right choice for me, but it did cross my mind. But no, I realized it's not like I had a very, very clear view from childhood of what I want to be later. It really happened incrementally. Even business school, I was this close to get to political science, ultimately this business school. Then even after business school, I was still not sure, so I went back to development economics, which is a bit more like academics. So yeah, I think it's been very empirical, how my career happened.
Okay. And then what was your first job?
So again, I think the farm, from 10 to 16, we thought, like my brother and I thought of it as vacations, but ultimately it was a bit workation because when I think about it, we were milking cows,
free labor,
going to the market, selling eggs and milk and stuff, driving the tractor and cultivating wheat and beetroot. So that was the first, but then I did a lot of small things, like worked in a supermarket, putting stuff on the shelves. My English was bad, so I went to work 2 months in a salad factory in Lichfield, close to Birmingham.
Yeah, Lichfield.
Didn't learn English because my coworkers were Pakistanis and Polish guys, and so I worked as a gardener in Germany, trimming trees and cutting grass for old people.
So what were you doing in the salad factory?
I just I wanted to learn English. I was like, the best way is just to go alone and be working there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like a way of getting money and learning English.
But what was the job? What is like?
So okay, I was not on the production line, but you were like raw salad coming, then you were guys on the production lines like packing it.
Yeah.
I was at the tail end of that, like taking the boxes and making pallets and then sending to the Tesco's and the supermarkets in UK.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Amazing. No, but it's it's I think it helps really to do this kind of jobs and several ones because it gives you more vim to do well at school. And and not do that as a career, you know.
Sure.
I'm thankful for all these small jobs.
Yeah. Okay, and then so moving on from that one, how did your career trajectory shape post your masters?
So, first of all, during these masters, it was always like, so it was a master where you do 1 year and a half Paris, 1 year and a half London, 1 year and a half Berlin, and every time you write your exam, etc., in the language of the country, and you do a 6 months internship as well. So that was great because I did a bit of audit, a bit of corporate investment banking, etc. And that internship in corporate investment banking led me to my first job because we were advising Total, and then I got to know about this great project that Total was working on to build an access to energy division. Obviously, most people know Total as big oil and gas giant, but it's one of the big oil major that really think of itself as an energy company. They've actually made massive investment in solar. So I joined that project that was about leveraging the petrol stations that Total has everywhere in Africa and Asia to promote access to solar home systems. So having these solar home systems available for sale at the station, but also create a last mile distribution channel from the station to like remote areas. And I joined them when this was really starting. There was a pilot in 3 countries. Actually, Kenya was one of them. I remember this was 16 years ago, and I remember working with that guy, Ndiga, who was the guy leading the project in Kenya and was a very cool guy. Kenya, Cameroon, Indonesia. So it was really about helping these countries figuring out how do you do this successfully. Then it became how do you scale from 3 countries to 10. So that was my first 2 years, of working, and then the opportunity came to build this from scratch in Myanmar, which I realized few people know where Myanmar is on the map. So it's basically India, Bangladesh, China on top, and Thailand on the east side. So that's a country in the middle. And it was a super important country for Total because they had huge oil and gas investment, but there was no distribution whatsoever, no fuel station, nothing. And so they had to get someone to just get things off the ground. And it was fantastic. I think I got very lucky because I was still pretty young, and they gave me a chance. And
how old were you at that age?
23, maybe.
23.
Yeah, I mean, I had worked for just 2 years. No, okay, maybe not. Maybe 24, 25. And it was great. Also, being able to work on pretty much entrepreneurial undertaking, but with the backing of a huge company like Total.
Yeah.
So yeah, like figuring out how to import these solar home systems, getting a warehouse, finding entrepreneurs to do this business to customer distribution model, finding NGOs and microfinance institutions to also scale up. And again, I was right role, right time, right place. Because later on, Total got interested in doing much more than just solar home systems in Myanmar. And I was the only person having worked on how to do distribution in Myanmar. So I got to work with much more senior people than I on like a joint venture for a fuel station business, selling, excavator lubricants to jet mining, companies in Myanmar. So yeah, it was that was really my first real job, and it was really great.
Okay, and then from Myanmar, you've had a very international career. Could you take us through a bit the key milestones that you've achieved?
Sure. So right next after Myanmar, I resigned from Total, which is something no sane French guy would ever do. Total is the company. Once you're in, you can get a career for the next 40 years. Yeah. But my girlfriend of then was in France, and so I decided to resign to go meet her. 6 months later, we broke up, so it was a massive fail. And the company I joined was let's say the equivalent of Jumia in France, pretty successful company, a very strong number 2 to Amazon in France in e-commerce. And they wanted to build the Jumia of Francophone Africa.
Okay.
And I was supposed to be the chief of staff of the chief growth officer. 1 week, I think that's why ultimately this year was a fail, right? Broke up with my girlfriend, but also when 1 week before joining that job, the chief of staff tells me, hey, I just resigned. And 1 week after I joined, the group CEO announces that, we don't have the liquidity for that strategy. We are closing the international business. So my job became to go in each country and close them down, which was not really what I signed for, and but was not uninteresting. There was this CFO who was like, let's close it down as soon as possible. I don't care what happens to the people there. So I kind of took it on me that at least let me try to do things as neat, and clean as possible and do it the proper way. But so after that was done, took like 6 to 9 months. And so then my job was like Franco-French, helping this company in France. And it really made me think about what I want, and I realized I don't want to work in France. After what I had experienced in Myanmar, it was so great, so insightful, to work in a different culture. And also as a young French guy, I was given so much opportunities to do stuff. In France, people were still seeing me as what I was, 26, 27 years old guy. So I resigned. And believe it or not, I had enrolled to the University of Tehran to learn Farsi. I was set, like, I've resigned, let me go to Tehran, take 6 months, learn Farsi, and let's see what happens.
What was the thought process behind that?
The thought process was Myanmar was such a rich country, interesting country. What other country has such a rich culture and civilization? What's happening right now in the news, you can't take away from the Iranian, that they have a wonderful civilization and culture. So that was the thought process. But 2 months before going, I got a job offer for another company called Bima. And ultimately I stayed 8 years there. So I never went. I did go for 1 month traveling in Iran, but I did not go to the university to learn the language. And so I joined this company in Nepal. And this company was into micro health insurance and telemedicine in developing countries, and pretty much targeting people who generally would have no access to insurance whatsoever.
So you said telemedicine? Telemedicine,
so access to doctors on phone or video.
Okay, sure.
I know in many countries, the ratio of doctor to people is just way too low, and people lack access to health. And so telemedicine is a huge game changer. Joined this company and really loved it. Very impact-driven company. You can touch millions of people. They would be having partnerships with telcos. So the premium would be deducted from your airtime balance or your mobile money balance. So allowed to really touch millions of people. And health is a sector where impact is obvious. You see the immediate impact of what you do. I would also say this company gave me the foundations to be able to get a job like at Watu, because they had huge field operations. We had a lot of guys on the field selling insurance, and insurance is a tough sell. Nobody wakes up in the morning feeling I need to buy insurance today. So a lot of telesales operations as well. So big call centers calling people and trying to talk them into getting insurance. And then on the product development side also, it was very interesting because people see insurance as a very traditional, not very sexy sector. But precisely, I think, because there is a lot of traditional risk-adverse companies there, it's very ripe for innovation and disruptions. And that's what this company tried to do. And when you think about it, insurance is one rare product where the product is what you say it is. It's just like, give me this much money today against the commitment that I will pay you this much if this happens to you, etc. So the product design is endless. You can design whatever you want. So that was quite interesting, get into how you price and design an insurance product. But the most interesting part was mixing telemedicine to that. So we had our own doctors providing consultation. And then because you have the doctors providing consultations and the insurance together, you could really work on great customer journey where you call the doctor prescribes you something, that something is covered by the insurance. Then you can work with delivery companies to make sure it's delivered to your home.
Right.
And then, through these consultations, we know that you have maybe diabetes, so we can create content and help you manage your diabetes more proactively. So, yeah, very exciting, sector to work in.
Sure. And so that was in Nepal, and then where?
And then so I did the same with them. So Nepal was country manager, then I was sent to Ghana, country manager, then I was sent to Malaysia, then Bangladesh, then Cambodia, and then Watu came in.
And how many years in each of these countries?
So it depends. Nepal was like 9 months. Ghana was 4 years. Malaysia was 2 years. Bangladesh was 2 years. So Cambodia was 1 year.
And do you have any particularly special moments from a cultural perspective from these different countries that you went to, or ones that you particularly appreciated?
I mean, so many, and these countries are so different and cultures are so rich and so different at the same time. It's very hard to ping one thing. I would say if I had to try to oversimplify things, right? I'd say these countries, there is a few blocks, right? So Malaysia, Myanmar, and Cambodia are kind of the Southeast Asia block. Then Nepal, Bangladesh are more the South Asia block. And then you could say Uganda, Kenya is East Africa block, and then Ghana is West Africa block. And each of these blocks really have something different. If I look at East Africa, I think your countries are so beautiful, so green, wildlife is incredible, weather is so good. I don't want to be, I'm sure some people will be angry with me about saying this, but I'd say compared to West, so you have all these things on top of West, but if I must say food-wise, I do think West Africa is a bit on top, at least to my liking. And then Asia, it's hard to tell because it's a complete different software, you know. Religion is different, Buddhism, Taoism, so it's a different software. Food is different. The way people interact is different. To the extent you can get into big misunderstanding in the workplace. You get to business meetings and you feel everything went right, and it's a done deal. We'll have this deal, etc. And then you realize you completely misread the room, and you are never hearing from them again. So I think this happens more in Asia. One conclusion I would say is as a European, I believe we are closer to Africa than to Asia in the way we manage relationships and interact with people. But Asia is great. I mean, compared to maybe Africa, a lot more remains of ancient civilization, 1,000-year-old temples that you can visit. That's really great.
At Watu, how did that come about? So how did you first hear about Watu, and what made you choose to come join us?
Yeah, so I was approached, and I think it was just the right time. As you heard, I was quite happy in that previous company, but it had been 8 years, and I believe in work. I feel it's always good to stay long enough that you can learn enough and also give away something. But then also at some point it's good to just press reset, and give yourself another challenge. And I think it was really that right time for me to try something else. And I really clicked with the industry, the philosophy of the company, the people I've met. And Watu is a company that takes your recruitment very seriously. You get to interact with a lot of people at senior level. So I got to interact with Andri, Sergi, and every time I was like, okay, these look like great people. I would love to work with them. And then more on the personal side, my wife is African. She's from Ghana, and they had been 5 years in Asia, so we're quite keen to get back to the continent.
Sure. And since joining Watu, you've been here for how long exactly now?
A year and 3 months.
Okay. And could you take us a bit through your journey? Because you started in Uganda.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really great. I've loved every single day. I'm really admirative for what the team, I mean, what Andres has built and what the team have built is a fantastic business model. Not just the product, but how it's executed. And I think the philosophy we have in running this product, when you look at the way we handle collections, the way we handle recoveries, I think that's what sets us apart from competition. Because when you think about it, we are selling the same Samsung A07 and the same Bajaj bike as many other players, in our markets. But I think it's really the way we do it that stands out.
And how would you define the way we do it?
Much more empathetic. We are here for business. We are not non-for-profits, but still we are trying to do things, keeping our clients at heart and being empathetic in the way we do things. And not only it's important because to me it gives me pride in what we do, but also I think business-wise it's actually smart, right? Because then people don't see you as just a loan shark trying to make money on the back of our clients. But it's obvious to me, at least I need to go more in the field in Kenya, but when you go to Uganda in the street, you speak to Boda riders, not one of them would give you, bad stories about Watu. They really appreciate how we run things.
No, I had the same experience on a market visit to Kibera and wearing Watu branded merch and hats and things, and the reception was really great. Like people saying how their perception of Watu was super strong, and yeah, they were considering a lot of them had taken out bikes, smartphones, gone from one product to the next as well.
And it's quite unique, It's quite unique to be successful on the business side and still to keep that brand equity and people loving you. For example, my previous company, we did have that empathy. People loved us, but it wasn't as successful as Watu, like profit-wise, right? And so yeah, it's quite a unique combination. And I think we should cherish it.
Absolutely. Okay, and then take us a bit deeper into your time in Uganda. So what were your main goals whilst you were there? And did you have any interesting leadership learning experiences there?
Wow. I mean, I came at a very busy time, as you know, we have, it's a relatively complex market in the sense we have quite big Boda operations, the biggest up to now. Hopefully Kenya will overtake Uganda again, but big Boda operations. And Boda is really operationally draining, I would say, probably more than Simu, because of the branch recovery operations. But also Simu, we were at a time where we really wanted to scale up. 2024 had been like already scaled year, but still like foundation level. And we really had to take it to the next level. And then Uganda also has Shule. I think it's really also a part of our business I cherish. Back to what we were saying, a business, but also with social impact. And so it's quite complex because you have all these things. And
could you explain for those who don't know what is Watu Shule?
Yeah. So Shule is a driving school which Watu created. So it's a separate legal entity that we created with purpose to be able to train our clients on road safety and also give them the legitimacy of having an official driving license, right? So they are not running the risk of being stopped by police. And it's quite successful. In Uganda, we give 1,000 driving license a month. So yeah,
amazing.
It's quite big.
Okay. And then here we are in Nairobi. What happened? How did you feel about, how did you hear about this job opportunity and how did you feel about taking on the responsibility?
So I heard it earlier this year from Andre. I was honored, first of all, that company trust me. It's, Kenya is obviously by far the biggest market for us. It's where it started as well. So there's lots of legacy and big pressure on me to not break that and make it even better. So really honored, a bit surprised that it came so soon, because I had arrived in Uganda just about a year ago. So kind of surprised that this came so soon, but honored and thankful.
And switching a little bit into now also the your personal life as well. You mentioned earlier you have a wife and 2 children. How would you say, because you're currently acting country manager for 2 countries, as well as maintaining family life, how is that going for you?
I think you should ask my wife. She's probably going to give you the most accurate answer. Yeah, it's not easy, especially now the 2 countries is not easy. But generally, even a country manager role, even just in Uganda, is not simple. I think it's a matter of choice. So I have a 2-year-old boy and a 6-month-old daughter. And I think you just need to learn to compartment your life. So when I wake up, I have 30 minutes with my boy to have breakfast together. Then from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. is basically work. And then 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. is my kids and my wife again. Then they go to sleep. Then sometimes I have to go back to work after they are asleep. And then there's 1 day per weekend that I really try to switch off completely and dedicate to them. So I think they still feel I'm doing my best, and this 30 minutes in the morning and 2 hours in the evening is probably good enough to make sure you're present, you're not completely absent. But I would say what I have to sacrifice is more like the personal leisure time, because you can't have it all, right? You can't be doing sports 3 times a week and be reading and and then have family life and then work at the same time. So I guess the personal social part of it is what maybe I had to put a bit on the side.
And if you could, what are your personal interests or hobbies that you like?
So I do run. I used to play rugby as a teenager, but I stopped because I became thinner and thinner, and my friends became bigger and bigger. But I love rugby, so if I could do touch rugby, which has less contact, I would love to. Running. I used to play the drums as a teenager for quite a long time in different bands. I would love to potentially resume that in Nairobi. I need to find some bandmates, and then I need to find the time to practice. But music is a big part of my. If not playing it, then listening to it. Live bands, etc. I'm really, and then reading. Again, the only time I can get to read is actually on the plane. And as I said, I love reading history books. In particular, we were talking about all these countries I've lived in, and I really like digging into a country's culture. So I've already ordered 10 books related to Kenya, mostly about history, just to understand where the country is coming from. And I think it just helps to capture the culture a bit more, even if it's impossible to capture entirely. But
Sure. And on the topic of leadership, I'm sure many of our fellow colleagues here are interested to see how maybe your leadership style comes out. How would you define your leadership style, if you could? Tricky question, I know.
I always found this question tricky, and I always used to say, you'll find out, and you will tell me later on. But no, I'm quite fact and data driven. So I like having discussions. Not that instinct cannot play a role in business, but whenever possible, I like us gathering around the facts. And then you can make your instinct talk. But so that's the first thing. I like honesty, which means, if things go wrong, let's talk through it. That's also my role, is to help, talk through it and find a solution together. So I would always value more honesty even when mistakes are done or situation is bad, and then we roll out the sleeves and work together, than hearing about things a bit too late. And then again, I let people to experience by themselves, but I might, as a European, come across as maybe more direct than maybe the norm in African or Asian culture. But that's always with good intention to make sure there's no ambiguity, and feedback is clear, and it's always okay. Try to be fair in the judgment, and it's always business related, right? So I always try to really separate personal and business.
Okay. And just on the topic of honesty there, I was wondering if you'd be open to share an example of a failure that you might have had in your career so far with regards to leadership and what you might have learned from it.
So I think we talked about that year with this e-commerce company where ultimately it was about closing countries. But I would say it's not my failure because it was a company decision, and then my mission became to do that. Massive failure, maybe not, but I think what comes to my mind is, and I think that's, I guess, an interesting, lesson for me is when I joined this micro insurance and telemedicine company and went to Ghana, I had a formidable ride in Ghana. We tripled revenues, grew, became profitable, increased profit, launched new products. And so I felt a bit like at the pinnacle, I was one of the best country managers in the group, etc. And then I was sent to Malaysia, and less than 2 years later, we had to close, right? And that really made me reflect about success and how ephemeral it is. Because same guy, same company, even more or less same product, but different markets, different timing, much more complicated markets that, the company, it was the first time we went into Southeast Asia, and way of doing business is very different, takes more time because you need to penetrate networks, and also it was at the time of the liquidity crunch for all startups. So we just did not have, the liquidity and the time to make it work. And so we closed, and obviously as a CM, that is a failure, but it just, I think my reflection is then success is never your success alone. There's an element of luck to it, like the timing, the market, your teams, and also failure is never 100% your failure. I mean, as long as you've put the efforts, and you've not been lazy, but really tried hard, worked hard. If it fails, maybe, there were things beyond your control, and you just need to reboot. And my reboot was then to be sent to Bangladesh, and it was again a success story of turning the company around and turning into profit. So yeah, and I think when you read a few management books, you realize almost every one of these super successful guys, multi-billionaires, went through this kind of, on and off earlier in their career. So I think it's quite universal.
And another question I had was with regards to Watu and looking ahead. What's got you excited for the coming year, 2026 at Watu?
Well, I mean, there's so much, right? There's plenty on the roadmap. I still consider myself in the transition, so excited to complete kind of the handover and the understanding of Kenya business, and in parallel, hand over properly the Uganda business, who I've learned to love, and so making sure that they are being handed over in the right hands to a good person. But then looking at Kenya more in particular, great plans in Boda. We want to scale it back. We want to be back to where we were, but in a different way. So we'll have to reinvent ourselves. Simu, still massive opportunity to scale, but also massive opportunity to do things a bit differently and a bit better. Be better at detecting fraud, because it really hurts us right now. be better at engaging with our clients, so we give them more reasons to pay their loan on time. I have a long list of exciting things on our plate.
And we look forward to seeing how it all comes together. And just before we head into the live Q&A, I have 8 quick-fire questions for you. So first of all, what's a single phrase that makes you smile or cheers you up?
I'll not be very funky on this one, but hey, we are beating our budget, or hey, we have saved this much, from the budget. That generally would make me cheer.
That's the most country manager response I've ever heard. What scares you most about yourself?
I guess maybe I'm a bit impatient.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a quality in certain times, because you want to not procrastinate and get things done.
Mm-hmm.
If too much of it can be a disadvantage. But okay, I have a more profound answer to this,
sure.
Which I had with a friend lately. It's very profound.
I'm ready.
I started to fear. You said what scares me about myself. I started to fear death for the first time after I got my kids, and then I spoke to a few, young parents. I think a lot of them say the same. It's like when it's just you, you're like invisible, or whatever happens to me is just me, right?
Yeah.
I think when you start having this like small thing that you are responsible for, it makes you think about, oh my gosh, if something happens to me, what will happen to them?
Yeah.
So yeah, more profound way to answer your question.
That's very good, very strong. When was the last time you cried?
I'm not a big crier. Like I usually don't cry just by watching movies.
Mm-hmm.
So my best guess would be thinking of a lost loved one, like memories, maybe a couple of years ago. That's probably the only thing that would make me cry.
Sure. What's something you can't let go of?
Something like I can't help doing?
Yes, or something from your past that you really hold on to, or something, yeah.
So again, I think looking at the questions you ask me, I have this very, very deeply rooted foundation in France. I was very lucky to have a strong family, and coming from that same region, and that's still and I think that's probably still very, very important to me, and that's probably why I was confident enough to take this leap of faith and go to Myanmar and have that kind of career, because I know no matter what, there's still
you have those roots.
That's home, which I would not even call home, because I don't see myself living in France, but there's that root, right? Yeah. A strong root that I can still come back to.
That's such a great answer. What's your guilty pleasure?
My wife would say, okay, I don't spend much money generally on stuff. I don't like big cars. I don't like fancy clothes, etc. But the one thing I spend money on is like artifacts, like antiques or stuff like that from countries I've been. So yeah, I start having quite a weird collection of like bronze Buddhas and carved Chinese bed and African mask and African doors, and so that I would say is the closest to a guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Great. What's a fun fact about you most people at Watu wouldn't guess?
You should tell me. No,
I can give you a hint.
Yeah?
It's your incredible dance moves, surely. This guy's got serious rhythm, I'm telling you. No?
Okay, yeah, dance move. I guess I was about to say maybe people don't imagine I was a drummer, and so that is still related to music, right? By the way, that band, we used to play The Clash, which is very British, right?
Yeah.
Quite old school, but that's I had different bands, but the one I've stayed the most with, we were playing the Clash stuff. I guess that's maybe not something you would think of me.
True. And finally, what do you like most about yourself?
Man, these are really not questions I ask myself. I don't know. I don't hate myself, but I also don't, cherish myself so much that I think I'm trying to be a good person, in no matter quality, as a CM, as a dad, as a husband, as a friend. That's very basic, but I think that's good enough to me.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, now we're heading on to some live Q&A questions. So first of all, we'll head to this one from Alice Munyanye, who said, what has surprised you most about the Kenyan market so far?
I think, especially coming from Uganda, there is like a bit in Kenya that, I think is, when I look at Simu, the way things are running fast, the productivity of people on the field, I don't know if that's, there's a certain hunger, a certain speed that is slightly less there in Uganda. I hope my Uganda colleagues will not, but I like that a bit, tempo here. I could kind of compare it to the difference between Ghana and Nigeria in the West. Ghana is a bit less, up tempo, like Uganda, and then that's a bit the vibe it's giving me moving from Uganda to Kenya.
Okay, next from Emily Mbogo. Did you imagine that being this adventurous could get you this far?
Yeah, and I think, ultimately you were asking me what's my childhood dream. So I never had one, but I think over time, I guess I carved myself a compass. And today my compass, or the way I see my career, I don't have like crazy ambition, like being a billionaire or necessarily, climbing the ladder, but just having a fulfilled career in multiple countries. That's something I realized about myself. It's one of my life goal almost, spending enough time so you can really build friendships and understand the culture, but then at some point move on to another one, because there's so many countries and so many cultures in the world. So let's see, I do see myself staying hopefully a bit in Kenya, maybe a few years, 4 or 5 years, but I do see myself probably again continuing at some point, because that's what drives me in life, and I find it so enriching. And that gives me also all these opportunities. I think that's the question, right? Like not being scared. And it's not a single one of these countries and opportunities I took that I regret. Like each one of them gave me something.
And I have a follow-up question to that personally. How do you balance, because when you're traveling around so much, it can be difficult to build community. How do you find that balance between building deeper relationships versus more maybe shallow relationships across different countries?
Yeah, it's a very good one. So there is really that foundation of friends from university. These guys are always here, and we try to meet every couple of years. We meet somewhere and spend a weekend together, and that's enough to, keep the flame. And then in each country, it's a matter of quality over quantity. Definitely, you are not going to keep 20 friends from each country, but each of these countries, there is 4 or 5 people that I'm still in touch with. Could be just personal friends, could be colleagues. And I know that wherever they need me or I go back again there, they'll be there. So it's a matter of choosing your friendships well and then focusing on quality over quantity.
Great. Next question's from Collins Kiptu, who said, "We are excited to have you here. Do you believe in giving someone a second chance, i.e. after a failure?"
Yes. Yes. And I think that's the tricky part sometimes in senior management is, there's pressure of quick delivery. and sometimes you may be tempted to judge someone quickly, and you have pressure to get it done. So it's 50-50. Sometimes you realize that just if the mindset, if the attitude is not there, a second chance is not going to make things change. But sometimes it's just the person was not given guidance enough. The person maybe had not been upskilled to be able to do that, or delegation was just done before even checking that the person is ready. So I have a lot of examples where you're like, is this person really fit for the team? And then you give a second chance, and this person ends up being one of the best performers. So yeah, I do believe it works sometimes.
Great. Question is from Eric Etemesi, who said, how would you describe the culture you want to build/bring along to Kenya?
There's that expression I like, which is bar raiser. We need to raise the bar in everything, Andres and the team have built this wonderful business model, again, with Boda and Simu. Boda is now 10 years old. Simu is already 5-6 years old in Kenya. We need to think about, what will be the successful business model 5 years from now. And so really, as a mindset, we need to raise the bar in terms of the people we recruit, making sure that person will add something to the team. In terms of the way we do things, asking ourselves, is there always a better way to do things more efficiently, etc. We need to think outside the box. Again, we are evolving in very fast markets, and a lot of people are trying to chase Watu from the pedestal it is in. And so we need to always question ourselves. And we also need to be willing to look at competition and what they may be, and be humble enough to see what they may be doing better than us. Maybe we also have some things to learn, right? And last but not least, I believe in cost frugality as almost like a value. And I'm having this debate many times with the Uganda team, because sometimes cost frugality is misinterpreted as cost cutting. It's not that. It's just being cost conscious, so we don't spend on what's unnecessary. We consider every dollar spent by Watu as if it was from our own wallet, so that we actually can afford to spend on what really matters and what will make Watu successful. So yeah, that's a value I quite like.
Okay, where did you pick up that value? Is that just something you've learned over time, or did you have an inspiration?
So it's something, a lot of companies, Amazon typically is a company that thrived on cost frugality, but also working for 8 years for this micro health insurance company, where margins are extraordinarily thin. And if you don't have that cost frugality, you just won't make it as a business. Right. So it really teaches you, the value of what's really important, what's not, what can be saved, where, etc. And I think even if Watu has generally a more successful and higher margin business, I still think that concept is worth keeping as a guiding principle.
For sure. Next question is from Beatrice Keindo, who said, which lessons from Uganda do you think are most transferable to Kenya, and which areas require a completely fresh approach?
I mean, sadly, Uganda is, I would say, leading the way in terms of what fraud can look like in Simu. And again, over the last few months, we are seeing the speed at which this is evolving with AI. Now pictures are not just photoshopped, but AI. Then it's so I think Uganda is actually sadly leading the way there, but is also teaching us how we have to quickly readjust. And the good news is, I think there's a lot of signals, data points that we are not looking at today, and that can help us greatly to fight that. So I think that I will carry here in Kenya. Yeah, I think that's the main one. Overall, a lot of the things in Uganda were things that were imported from Kenya, brought to the Uganda context. I'm also very careful generally with all the Kenya managers not to come with a Uganda software, because when I dig, I also realized a lot of things have good reasons for being different in Kenya. So yeah, you need to be careful differentiating what should be brought from what has good reasons for being different in each market.
Great. Next question is from Silas Javan, who said, what's your ultimate goal for Watu in the Kenyan market, and how are you planning to achieve it?
On Simu is keeping our number one position, but while really making the overall business healthier. Again, led fraudulent applications, fraudulent loans let in, and more empowered and rewarded clients with good payment behavior. And so that's stage one, but also we know that giving people access to the phone is just stage one of a very long series of service we can later on provide. Cash loan is one obvious of them, and some of our competitors are already doing it. So I think really the top priority is to fix or make healthier this business, but then there is endless opportunities considering we are the ones having given the phone in the hands of our customers, and phone opens to so many things from cash loans to a lot of different things. And Boda, a good target is to get back on top, right? We were on top. We've let a certain competitor take our number one position, and we want to take it back. I think that's a good ambition.
Great. Next question is from Sam Maniki, who said, if you could change one thing business-wise, what would it be and why?
I think we don't use the data we have enough. I think we have a fantastic data analytics team. And I'm not saying it because the head is my fellow Frenchman, Jeremy, but generally what him and his team have built is really amazing from a just like access to data perspective. But now, and we started these discussions with Jeremy and his team already over the past few months, we realized there is so much more data that could be leveraged for us to make better, more informed decisions and to guide our actions. So that's something that I would do differently and that we are changing right now.
Perfect. This one is from Moses Mallow, who asks, how are you aligning employee development initiatives and motivations in regards to company strategy as they work towards achieving business goals for the year, e.g. bonuses?
So there's a lot of work done by Nino and her team. Started with Eric before I joined. Is continuing now with Eric and myself to really build an overall performance culture at Watu. We do have KPIs, and most departments have this monthly reward, but we want to structure it even further, so that it's not just for people who are on monthly KPI, but for everyone, and such that beyond monthly bonus, it can trigger potentially salary raise, potentially yearly bonus, potentially being eligible for a promotion. So one element is making sure that all these KPIs are 100% aligned with the business strategy, and that's a review all the HODs and myself will be having in Q2. I think generally it's aligned, but there's still probably some discussions worth having on how aligned it is. And then there is building, finalizing, and getting approval for this overall framework where your hard work and your performance will impact all the things I mentioned, commission, promotions, salary increment, and so on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that just about wraps it up for today's session. Unless you have any final comments that you'd like to make?
No, it's been a pleasure. First time I have a more personal interview. So thanks. You made me feel at home.
No, thank you so much for sharing. We really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to all the things we're going to achieve together this year. And thank you very much to all of you who've joined us online. We look forward to catching you for the next one. Bye-bye. Ciao.